Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Feeling and Healing podcast. I'm back again with Teri Houghton. Today, we are not talking business, even though we met through a Facebook group where you can, find podcast guests, and we both are entrepreneurs, so we had a previous conversation about that. But today, we are going to talk about adoption because Terry, I found out, is an adopted mom of how many kids, Terry? Five? Three and then
Five
two.
kids, five and three are adopted. Yep.
Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. And for those of you and for those of your listeners that know, I'm adopted. So me and Terry thought we got get together to kind of talk about both perspective as like an adopted parent and an adoptee. So I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was I think it's beautiful. I think it's probably one of the most beautiful things, like adopting
Mhm.
children. Like it is like you like have such a big heart. Like it's like the pure it's like the truest form of unconditional love. I really feel that's what it really is.
Oh,
You know,
that's sweet.
no,
That's
I
sweet.
really do because it's like you're ta I mean, of course, like like they're babies, but like you're essentially like taking in a stranger, somebody you don't like know, and you're just immediately loving them, immediately taking care of them, and like treating them as if they're your own. So like I don't know any purer form of love than that, but I know for me, like I think I told you in our first call, me and my brother are both adopted. We have no my parents couldn't have fertility issues, so they couldn't have children. But we're adopted from two different families. I don't know about you. We'll get into your kids. But yeah, so adoption was always really kind of like part of our story. And like both of my parents are Caucasian and we're both Asian. So we're both from South Korea. And I believe your kids are from right, South Korea, right, too? Or no?
Two of them are,
Two
and
of them,
one's from
yeah.
China.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, but yeah, so like it was always a big part of our story, and I always felt like really loved. Like I never felt like I don't know if your kids went through this, like felt like, oh, like where's my like birth mother? Like I was like my mom is my mom. Like that's my mom. Like.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So two of my kids are from South Korea. One of them came home. She was 5 months. The other one, we waited 3 years for him to come home. So it was a
Oh
long wait.
wow.
He came home at three. And then my other son is from China, and we waited 2 years for him to come home. So we had some
Wow.
long waiting time periods. And then the first two of my kids are biological kids. So it has been it's been a journey, and it's one of the most, I mean, being a mom is one of the most beautiful journeys of my life, and adoption has just been another beautiful story. And I
Mhm.
think for our family, there never was, it was really always about my heart loving them. They were
Mhm.
just, I love them like my
Of course.
biological kids. I don't, and I just feel like that's how I was made. I think each kid, as you know, has their own
Of
adoption
course.
story,
Yes.
and they feel differently about it at different times as we've gone through different parts of life.
Hmm.
Um, I think, I think when I was really young and waiting for my first daughter to come home from Korea, a couple who had adopted that we were hanging out with, he said to me, the dad, he's like, this is going to be a very different parenting journey. And I was like, I had two biological kids at the time. I was like, oh, whatever, I've
Yeah.
got this, like I'm figuring this out. And that is the truth. It is a different parenting journey. It's not harder or easier. It's just a different journey. And it has its own beauty and it has its own heart. And biological kids have their own beauty and their own heart. But in the end, those five are siblings and they
Yes.
move as a sibling unit. And I think that is the beauty of it. And for my biological kids, it's them seeing how family can be created, and family
Hmm.
is not about, in my heart and my life, is not about DNA. It is about people we
No,
bring into our lives that
absolutely.
need to be loved, want to be seen and heard, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters. That is what matters. And so I think it's so interesting because I haven't talked to a lot of people in your space. I've talked to a lot of adoptive parents, but it's
Yeah,
interesting. I would love to hear a little bit about,
sure.
like maybe challenges you've had with being adopted, having white
Yeah.
parents. You're Asian, my
Hmm.
kids are
Hmm.
Asian, I'm white. Like, how does that all play in? And then you had talked to me a little bit about this, just like wondering like about your birth mom and how your parents have dealt with that and talked to you about it. It's just
Yeah.
interesting to hear because you're a full, my kids are the oldest. Well, I have two that are the same age.
Okay.
They're the same age, but they're one's from China, one's from Korea, and they're 19. So you're a little bit
Okay.
ahead of
Yeah, I'm
them.
a little bit ahead. Yep.
Yeah. So I would just love to hear that from you
Yeah,
and for the audience to know
absolutely.
that.
Well, for so for I was a very, let's just say, I've always been a very like, I guess, like, interesting child is the word. The only reason why I say interesting is because I was like just very like always me. Like my parents always wanted to just be me. And I remember like when I was younger, my mom told me, unfortunately, my adopted mother has passed away, unfortunately, but when I was younger and growing up, she told me that like I thought like her and I like we're like twins. I'd be like, "Mom, like we look alike." And my mom would be like, "Oh geez." Like we were like we need to get this one in school. Like she needs to like learn about like we're not different, because like, but that's like how I felt like as a kid. Like I just felt
Mhm.
like this is my family. Like, yeah, we're like twins. Like, and like, like I just felt so attached to her. Like, and I remember growing up, they were always very because I mean, once again, we clearly look, and like we were walking around. And another fun, oh, you'll find this funny. When I remember when we went to like I think we went to Disneyland, and we took one of our babysitters there. And like it's just, I don't know, it's just like when you have like, like people don't know if you're like the babysitter or the mom. So like people would think like my babysitter was also Caucasian, but like people would think that like they would get confused, like who's the babysitter, who's the mom. I mean, like, so like, I mean, I don't remember that, but I remember my mom telling me that, and that was kind of like funny for her, because she's like, yeah, like their mom. But for me, like my parents were always so open about it. They actually, because as you know from Korea, I make the little joke, you're gonna laugh at this, that was, you have both, that they say Korean is delivery and Chinese is take no it no Korean's delivery, Chinese is takeout, because you have to go to China to get your
Yeah.
baby, and then Korea is,
Yeah.
I was, and same, similar to your children. Or your daughter. Both me and my brother came here around 6 months, so they had to wait
Okay. Yeah. Hmm.
age. But my parents were always like, they had my mom. I remember my mom kept these like little journals where she would write like
Yes.
about like, yeah, like before I
Yes.
was coming, and she would write my little story out, and it actually had like little Korean like figures on it. It
Hmm.
had like Korean writing on it, and they were
Hmm.
even, I don't know if like your kids did this, but when we were younger, they were very like, you need to stay like tied back to your old culture. Like we go to like Korean camp,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
yep. We go to Korean camp and we do that. But like I would say like, but for the most part, like I pretty much, out of all of like my friends growing up, like, and similar, I don't know if you did this when your kids were young, but some of my parents did have like, because of course there's like, adopted parent groups. We, made childhood friends with people that had adopted children. So it was just like having that commonality was really nice. But they were always like very like open and honest about like our stories. I don't know if your kids do this, but to this day, I'm 37 years old, and I'm like, Dad, we don't have to do this anymore. But like, we still like not celebrate, but like we recognize like my airplane day. I don't know if you do that with
Hmm.
your kids, but yeah,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like, me and my brother have we have our birthday day, we're our birthday, but then we have like our airplane day.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, and I always tell people too, because I think the funniest thing about like, because of course there's like, my name is not Asian, and then people are like, oh, like you're Asian, and then I tell people all the time, I'm like, I was raised by like, I'm not your typical like like, we're not from like, an immigrant Asian family where like I'm expected to be a doctor or a lawyer. Like I was like, my parents like didn't care. I'm not good at math. Like I'm like like I joke around
Right.
about
Right.
that, like
Right.
I'm like, and that's like, I think also just like the beauty of like the nature and nurture thing, you know what I mean? I'm like, yeah,
Sure.
like I'm a product of nurture. And I will say even like my personality traits, I can tell that like I got from my parents, and so it's super interesting to me to learn. But yeah, to answer your question, like I really, yeah, my parents were just really, really open about it, about the story. I mean, they didn't have biological kids, so they didn't know anything else. So maybe that was a strength they had, but yeah, they never like um they were always very open and honest and made it really part of our story and not like didn't shy away from it, weren't like, oh, you're adopted. And like and also too, my whole extended family, like I mean, I thankfully, I mean, I don't think anybody would be opposed to like adopting children, but it's like amazing how even just like my aunts, my uncles, like they all came when like we came, when we came on the airplane, like everybody was just
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
welcoming and unconditional. Like no family members were like, "Oh, you're adopting." Like no, like that's not the attitude that my parents got from my extended family either. So,
Yeah, I think I can relate to so much you're talking about.
yeah.
From the parental, we definitely spent a lot of time when the kids were young, like going to the adoption agencies.
Yeah.
Like they'd have like all these get-togethers where you would be with other adoptive families, and that was a big part of our life. And same thing, like all three kids have journals while I was waiting.
Yes.
I mean, there was a lot of waiting. Like
Yeah.
I had a necklace I wore for each kid during all those times, like every day waiting for them to come home. I think it's just a part of who we were. Now there definitely got to be a day with the kids where they were like, we really don't want to go to that New Year's celebration, right? Like we're
Hmm.
good. And you know what I mean? And I think as they got older, but I felt the same way as your parents, like open. They could ask me any questions. Of course, I don't have a lot of answers for them. And I would always tell them, I
Yeah.
don't actually know that
Fortunately,
answer.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's always been an open conversation. It's always been like it's just a part of who we are as a family. And I think
I love that for you.
there's a lot of pull in the community when you first adopt, like to be a part of all that stuff. And then
Yes.
realize after a while, you just realize like these kids are just kids and they just like want to eat pizza and
Yeah.
they just want to
Yeah, they
be
don't want to
like,
be like forced to do anything or be,
right.
yeah, yeah.
They tell you that a lot, like, like to try to, and we did my third adoption. Korea had changed all the rules. And so we went over there as a
Oh, wow.
family once to meet
Very
him. And then
cool.
we came back, and then my oldest and I went back to get him. So that was like a
Oh,
whole
wow.
family trip. It's probably the hardest trip I've ever taken. Just a lot
I'm
of kids, a lot of figuring things
Yeah,
out.
and like very
But
far too. It's not like it's like, like a 2 hour flight. It's like
yeah,
I don't even know how many hours that is. What,
it
like
was like 15
I was
hours.
gonna
And
say like 12 hours, yeah.
yeah, but we got to do that. They got to meet their little brother like for the first time, all of us. So it was
Oh,
definitely like that last one, especially because the kids were older, was like this family adoption
I love that.
adventure, really. And yeah, I think, yeah, it's just a part of who we are. And I think the same thing with our extended family. I mean, I think at the beginning, like you're adopting, what are you doing? How are you
Mhm.
doing this? A little bit of like that. And by the third, it was more like, that's
You're
like
like, yep, you're
five
doing it again.
kids and five kids. Are you guys sure? But
Yeah.
for me, like that is something that God put on my heart and that He already had that path all
Yeah, for you.
outlined. So for me, that's my personal story. And so I think, but yes, we definitely like, it's funny you guys call it like airplane day. We call it like family day. There's
I
been
love
like
that.
gotcha day's been for a long time. That was the word. And then it transitioned to family day. I haven't heard that before. So that's really
Yeah, it's
cool.
airplane day. Yeah, yeah. It's like the day we came. And then like I
Oh,
remember
that was
too
a
back
huge.
that was back in
Yeah.
the day when like we still had like, like of course like video camera, like like the old school like
Yes.
and like I
Yes.
have the tape we still have the tapes of like when
Yes.
I came and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, you know what I mean?" And like, of course it's kind of like a not like a party, but like yeah, like my parents like had the whole family over
Oh,
the
it was a
day
big deal.
that
It was a big
we
deal.
both came over. And I will share something with you kind of funny that my mom shared with me like I like some because at my and like she's like, don't ever tell your brother this. And well, I'm sharing it on the internet now, so it's hopefully he doesn't hear it. But But actually like my parents weren't planning on adopting a second child. Like they were just like, yeah, like we're cool with like, you. And also too, I don't know if you had this experience, but my mom told me when they went to the agency, like she basically like they gave her like two pictures and they were like, here's this baby and here's this baby. Like
Mhm.
which ones I don't know if that happened to you, but um she got to like choose me, which I'm like, oh, maybe that's why I'm like so hard on myself because I was like chosen. But anyway, but my brother, actually the social worker, like they weren't planning on adopting another kid, and the social worker reached out to them and they were like, she was like, we had such a great experience with you, like would you consider
Oh,
adopting
mm.
another child? And they were like, sure. Like, you know
Okay.
what I mean? Like, they're like, why not? Like, you know what I mean? So, like, and not to say, like, of course, my brother is loved the same, but I guess maybe my mom didn't want to think like my brother wasn't like planned. But, like, but that's the same
Sure.
way with like biological kids that are planned and then like the oops kid. Like, not to say my brother is an oops, but like, like, well, he wasn't like, he was like, but they were like, yeah, like, why not? You know what I mean? Like, add an, and then, and then. I think the agency that I know we went through is called, I don't know if you're familiar with it or remember it, it was called Love the Children. It
Hmm.
was in it's actually I don't think it's in existence anymore, but similar to your story with your kids, unfortunately, like there's not much my parents knew
You're right.
about like my parents, like so it was like, and I will say like as a kid and everything and even to this day the only things, and everybody asks me like, so I've actually never been to Korea, so that's something that like you have on top of me, like everybody's like I've never been to Korea and everybody's like, "Do you want to go?" And I'm like, honestly, the only thing I think like I do, but like I feel like people would look at me and anticipate that I speak Korean and I do not.
Yes.
So I'm like, I feel like maybe that'd be an interesting experience for me, but I really have had never like any like urge to like go back. Like I'm so I hate to say this, I'm so Americanized that I'm like it'd be fun, but it's not like on my bucket list of things to do. And then like I really don't even have any I know I could, but like any like really urge to like meet my birth parents, see that. Like the only thing I would like to know is medical history, of course. That'd
Yeah.
be nice.
Yes. Hmm.
That'd be really, really great, like genetic stuff. And then just to see, like, not even just like see them, but like see what features I got from like, because I feel like that's something
Yeah.
that maybe potentially just looks wise, but like other than that, like I'm like, yeah, like I mean, I appreciate that, my adopted parents, they were young. They couldn't like they just couldn't support having a baby. So they gave me up for adoption. So, and I'm very grateful for them because I think I can only imagine my like how different my life would have
Yeah. Right.
been,
Yeah.
and then thankfully they were in South Korea, so like not North Korea. Like I can't even like, and as well what's going on over there, I'm like I can't even, and of course being not,
Mhm.
very well off, like I'm like this was a blessing for me. Because, I always say like my adoption story is pretty much like it's like there's no like there's no bad to it. It's all positive, all positive things.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, I mean, first of all, I loved Korea. I want to go
Yeah.
back.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I heard there's great food.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved being there. I loved the people. Um, yeah, I mean, my hope is, and my kids fluctuate on that if they want to go and search, and if they don't. And
Yeah.
of course, my son's from China, so that'll be a different. But
Hmm.
yeah, I've always told them if they want to go back and they want to take me, and I would
Yeah.
love to go back. But I do think, yeah, I mean, I do think when we were there, people did kind of assume that they would speak Korean, but
Yeah.
once they figured out they weren't, like they were very warm to them.
Oh, that's good.
I think, yeah, I think, yeah, that just, yeah, it's an experience. It's such an experience to be there. And, I feel like, our story was like with my first adoption, we were just like on a waiting list, waiting numbers keep going down. We put in for a girl, and then when it got to be one, then that's the next girl that was born. That's who we got. The next two I did pick out. I mean, basically, I looked through a lot of kids' pictures, which is actually a very hard part. I still sometimes, if I think about that, picking a kid out of all these kids' pictures that need homes is is a very hard, difficult kind of place
Yeah,
to
I
be
can imagine.
in.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, really hard. We had different criteria of what we were looking for, and that even sounds wrong, but we had wanted kids who had special needs that we knew could be taken care of medically here, easier than there. And so those were some different factors. So that kind of narrowed it down, but that is always a part that will be hard for my heart. It just, but knowing that we did what we could for
Yeah.
those kids. And I think that one of the things is like hearing your story of, it's just a blessing and it's been smooth. And I think I really have to lean into a little bit of, I've known so many adoptive parents over the years, and the stories can be really hard sometimes, like adoption,
Yeah.
I've experienced some of that in my own life, and I feel like, for lack of a better word, and this isn't me. I mean, I want to be a really humble person, but when I see and I hear the really hard adoption stories, those are very giving and really just such a loving people that are walking through hard with kids that are really struggling
Hmm.
to because loss and trauma are a real thing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I just feel like, you know, um, it's just it's amazing being around adoptive parents who have just really given up so much for these love of these children that
Mhm.
are their own children in their heart and their souls, and also really trying to honor birth parents, because I think that's really important too.
Yes.
Is, yes, what you were just saying, I can't imagine being a 19-year-old female and being like, I have no resources and I'm having
Hmm.
this baby and I'm making the hardest choices. Like, I will tell you, on Mother's Day, it always was like this heaviness inside of me of being like, thinking about these
Yeah,
women
yeah.
gave
Have to
up
get,
the
yeah.
greatest little human beings, and these little human beings are they're a greatest part of my heart with my biological kids.
Yeah.
So, but I had taken your mom's story about Disneyland. I had taken, I think at the time I had four kids, so two biological, two adopted.
Hmm.
Took them to the grocery store, mass chaos, totally, kids were definitely transitioning, trauma, all the things. And somebody said to me, "Are you running a daycare?" And I was like, "Do you think that
Are you
I would
running
bring
a daycare?
four kids to the grocery store at 10
That's
o'clock in
so
the
great. That's
morning?
so
If
funny.
this was my job, I would wait and send some of these people home and then
Oh
go to the
God,
grocery." I'm
you're
like,
so that's hysterical. I mean, sorry I laughed, but yeah, like, are you like it's like yeah, because like you have all these all these kids
this would
around you.
not be my, like, why are you people crazy? And I don't know if you guys, but you guys probably felt that too. Like, people are very inquisitive, and sometimes it's like, we're just like a family. We're
Yeah,
just trying
yeah,
to figure
yeah.
this all out. That's all.
Yeah,
That's all.
exactly. I mean, yeah, we only had two, but like, you know what I mean, or like my me and my brother. But yeah, I think like, and I didn't really ask them when my mom was alive, like, and my dad, to be honest with you, he was probably just like, he's like, whatever. I
Right,
didn't
right.
really
Yeah.
ask like about like her experience of like, you know, because like, you know, she was blonde, like she was fair, blonde hair like you, like there was definitely like, and actually. Actually, it's funny. You're gonna find this funny because my brother, and his wife, my brother's my sister-in-law is Caucasian. She's blonde, like brownish hair, blue eyes, and the baby looks is very so like of course when they had a baby I was like I wonder like because you know it's a mixed
Sure.
baby. I was
Sure.
like is it gonna be or is she gonna be you know more Asian looking more you know she's definitely my brother like it's like she has
Oh,
no like I feel so sometimes
oh,
I feel bad for my sister-in-law because I'm like she got no you know like no like nothing from my sister-in-law like maybe her hair is getting a little lighter but like she's very you could tell that this child is Asian and but it's funny because I'll send pictures to like some friends or whatever of like, you know, like when my niece is being cute
sure.
or whatever. And then they'll be like, "Why are you sending me pictures of you when you're a baby?" And I'm like, guys, I'm like, that's not me. I'm like, that's my niece. And it's so funny. And I think that's the reason why I find it hysterical is obviously like me and my brother aren't biologically related. That like I get and then like but people are like, no, like she looks like you. Like maybe like I can't see it yet or I don't know, but she's like, they're like, no, Danielle, like she really does look like you. And I'm like, that's even stranger because there is no biological connection at all to my brother. So like I was like, that's even odder that people think that like, you know what I mean? Like she looks like me. And
Hmm.
sometimes I see it and sometimes I'm like, no. Like, but also too, like, I mean, it's a compliment because my niece is
Sure.
beautiful. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
That's
so
fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's always interesting, you know, like now seeing like the next generation. And that's something too, like I feel like 37, I don't have I'm not married or anything, I have kids yet, but like I feel like if I, I'm at that point in my like fertility journey where I'm like, I mean, I'm gonna freeze my eggs next year and do all that fun stuff. But like I'm like I would never be opposed to adopting. Like I'm like, yeah, like if
Yeah.
it doesn't work
Yeah.
out, like if I can't biologically have children, like adoption is totally on the table for me because I'm like like how would I not be for it, you know?
Totally. Yeah. I've heard my kids say that too. I've heard my
Really?
biological kids say that too.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, who knows what happens in life, but yeah, I think that that just goes to show how our family has operated, and same with you. I mean, the openness to that is amazing because it's a different way to grow a family and it's a beautiful way to grow a family. There's no right or wrong way to grow a family. And I think,
Absolutely. And I will
yeah,
say, I mean, based off of like what my parents told me, and I'm sure your experience too, like, I mean, and I'm not saying this for people not to adopt, but adoption, the whole process is not an easy process. It's very hard. And especially nowadays.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing is, I mean, it takes a lot of grit to do that too, right? We talked
Yeah.
about that as being an entrepreneur. It's kind of the same thing. Like you just keep going and going and going, and then eventually that baby is there, and that is I always said it was like I had like a 3-year pregnancy with that
Yeah, right?
last one.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
waiting and you're waiting
exactly.
and you're
Yeah,
waiting,
yeah.
and you're watching this child grow up in pictures, and I think unless you've
Oh, they would send you
experienced
pictures
that,
as they, yeah, as they,
every month, man, I would wait every month. Like,
wow.
and I kind of knew when that last one, I kind of knew when they would take him to Eastern, was the adoption agency in Korea that we went through. And they take him in about the same time every month. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get pictures of him. But watching that little guy,
Oh, like, yeah, like,
grow
yeah, he
up.
wasn't with you. Yeah.
But I think the other thing is I've had adoptive parents ask me about that because, of course, when you have biological babies, you're seeing all these little firsts, right?
Milestones.
And
Yeah.
so then you're like, oh, I'm adopting and I'm missing all these firsts. And I think it's a beautiful how it like outlays because you have all these firsts with this child that you aren't even thinking about in a
Yeah.
different way.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
sometimes you forget that. And so then when you go through that, it's just this beautiful, it's just like a flower unfolding. You're just watching this child. And you're
Yeah.
also like watching, especially when he came home at 3, there was a lot of grief. And so
Oh yeah, I
walking
can't
through
even
that and seeing,
imagine.
yeah.
Yeah, because
So
you're like, yeah, your brain is more developed than like 6 months, even two. And like that's something actually I'm glad you brought that up because I was gonna mention that. Like and I'm not saying this is like a premonition for your children or any adopted children, but you brought up like loss and trauma. And it took me actually being in school to becoming a therapist and studying attachment theory. That's how
yep.
deep I had to go to realize because I remember like I have anxiety. I've had like depressive
Yeah.
episodes, and I remember one of them. Somebody asked me like one. It was like a therapist. They're like, "How do you feel around your birthday?" And I was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
like I'm not like." I was like, I'm not one of those people that celebrate my birthday the whole month. Like, I was like, I'm not like too crazy about them, but I'm like kind of neutral. And she's like, oh, interesting. And now I feel like now she was trying to like dig at that, that adoption story. And whether I like it or not, whether your three kids like it or not, unfortunately, like when you are removed from your birth parent at birth, whether it be like, that is unfortunately a trauma that like,
It is.
and there,
It is.
and it's not like, not to say I'm traumatized, but it does impact my attachment style. I am anxiously attached. I do have like an abandonment wound. Obviously, like it's something that like
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
healthy and I'm able to recognize it, but it took me years of therapy to realize that it shows up in my, especially my attachment style shows up very much in my
Yep.
relationships. So like but I know it. Like I'm like, yeah, like it's there. I really, I mean, I've done the work to be as regulated as possible, but like I did have to do some pretty like soul searching and healing to even recognize that. Because that like I think my whole life I was like, oh yeah, but I'm adopted. Like that's a good thing.
Hmm.
And like
Hmm.
it took a lot of work and therapy to realize like no, like it's okay. Like you have this wound because of that.
Yep.
It's not bad. It's
Yes.
not bad. It's just it's there and you just have to tend
Yes.
to it sometimes. And that's something that I did learn o as I'm getting older and as I've been like in and out of relationships in my life. Like
Yes.
I'm not a people collector by any means, but I will say when I lose people and like even not like lose people by death, of course, but like even just friendships that just don't work out or and then and I will share when I lost my adopted mom and she died. I lost her when I was in my mid 20s. That hit me like no other. Like it knocked me off. Like it like and it was because like actually I had one of my professors at my school tell me because I had to do a paper about this. Um that she's like, you lost two moms in your life. She's like, that's why
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
hit you. Like my body remembered it. Like I was like I went through
Hmm.
probably like the worst depression after my mom, not like not forever, but like a couple months after my mom passed away. Like my adopted mom, or and I was just like, and I was like, why did this hit me so hard? I was like,
Hmm.
but I was like, they're like, because it's like it's reopening
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that that wound, that core wound
Yeah.
that you have. And
Totally.
I'm like, makes a lot of sense, so
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's really, really good that you brought that up. And I think,
yeah.
I mean, that is definitely very much on the front of my brain with my kids. And I see it. I see attachment stuff. I see, um, just different things we've gone through. And yeah, and people will say, well, she was really young when she came home. Like, it doesn't matter. That initial bond you have with your biological
Hmm.
mom matters. And when it is severed, however it is severed, it is a lifelong journey. And I
It is.
think that when we go into adoption with our eyes closed and with silver lining of some of that stuff, it
Hmm.
is not helpful to our children. And I think that has been one of my parts of being like, I mean, we have definitely had a lot of challenges with stuff like that. And being blind to it does not serve anybody, but being realistic and being like, this is really a wound they have.
Yeah.
And I love that you're saying that, like how you would find that and it and it's in a quote unquote healthy place that you can deal with it. But I don't it is hard for me when I hear the adoption community doing the silver lining of adoption and being like, the reason this happened is because there was a great loss. And we need to
Yeah.
talk to our kids and our fellow adoptive people. We need to have real discussions about that because that's a real thing. And it can be beautiful and hard altogether. That's the thing about life. It can be this a beautiful adoption and it can be really hard because there's been this loss and trauma on the other side. And I
Yeah.
think putting those together is what makes real life and beautiful adoption stories in the end.
Yeah. No, I love that for you. I love that you're taking that lens and looking at it from like because like, and I also too, I feel like we live in a time now where, like even when I was your kid's age, that was what, like 10 years, 20 years ago. Oh geez, I'm really dating myself now. I can't believe that I'm saying that. But, like my, like attachments, like nowadays, like everybody's talking about attachment theory and attachment style. Like
Yeah,
20 years ago,
nobody was.
nobody was talking about it. So I do think that it's great that there is that stage of like that presence for parents to have a lot of resources nowadays for like their kids and whether they're adopted or not to like understand childhood wounds because something else I've learned becoming a therapist and just it makes logical sense and I never thought about it this way was that the first time children are normally introduced to the feeling of shame is unintentionally most likely from 99.9% of the time from their parents, from their caregiver being like, no, don't touch that stove. No, don't, don't cross
Mm-hmm.
the street without me. Like, and that feeling of shame, unfortunately, it's very unintentional, is triggered by something our parents are telling us and disciplining us in some way. So I mean, I just find that interesting, just as like, like, and I'm not parent blaming by any means, but as a family therapist, our families and our systems shape who we are.
Yeah, they do. And we are imperfect parents raising
Yeah,
imperfect children and figuring it out as we go. And so I think the underlying thing is always loving them, seeing them, listening. And sometimes we're just human and we just have to say, I'm sorry. Like I totally messed up. And that's
yeah.
for however a family is made. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's awesome. It's an awesome journey and it's been such a gift
Oh.
in my life.
That's amazing.
Um,
I love your story. I'm sure like if my mom was around, she would be saying the same that like I know that like she like you could just, I feel like sometimes like I was like loved more. I don't know if that makes sense, but like cuz like I don't know, I just feel like I was like cuz my parents like had to go through a lot to get me and my brother and it wasn't easy and I feel like, when we got not to say like we were raised very like we're not like like we're comfortable. We're not like, Jeff Bezos rich, but like we were rarely told the word no. Like, and I like for and like of course I had to. We weren't like we were good kids and we were taught good morals and values. But like I feel like they almost like went like an extra effort to like make our lives even better because
that's
they
beautiful. That's
yeah.
beautiful. That's love.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
love.
Exactly. It was, as I said, unconditional. Like it was like
Hmm.
I was theirs. They were like, it was very,
Hmm.
even, yeah, my whole extended family, like everybody just welcomed us with like open arms and um, yeah, and I remember I was so excited when I was getting like a brother. I was like, "Oh my God, like this is so fun. Like this is so exciting." Like and I like, went to the, went and it was so I don't remember that, but I can only imagine it was like a fun experience to be on the other side of like,
Yeah. Oh
to be like
yeah.
on the receiving
Yeah.
end
Yeah.
of that experience,
Yeah.
like even though I don't
Hmm.
remember like, remember when I was a baby, but yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. That's awesome. It's an awesome story. So
Well,
fun.
thank you
Cool.
so much for just, it's
Thank
such has
you.
been a great conversation. And
Yeah, I
I
love
always
it.
love, sharing adoption stories and just like, being so, thank you for being so vulnerable and for,
Oh, I
taking
feel
the time.
blessed. Like, this has been great. It's been an honor to talk to you today.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.